Hi, my name is Lourdes. I'm an executive producer of I'm Everywhere,
And hi, I'm Chai Simone. I'm the director of I'm Everywhere.
and you're listening to the Horror Squad podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, episode number 291. Tonight we're talking about Feed Me, which is a Steve pick. I'm your co-host, Joe. We have Steve, and Steve, I believe we have an interview, correct?
Yes, we do have an interview. I had the pleasure to speak to the director and one of the executive producer of the upcoming movie I'm Everywhere, which is currently trying to get funds on Indiegogo. We go through all of that in the interview. So their name is Chai and Lourdes. Chai is also a fellow podcaster on the Snobcast by Film Snob Reviews. And we had just a great discussion with both of them. Talked a lot of horror, talked a lot about indie horror and things to recommend. And I think you'll like this interview. It's really fun. I'm glad that we could speak to kind of smaller creators as this strike is going on. So yeah, I'm pretty psyched about it, and definitely listen to it at the end of this episode.
Very cool. Anything going on horror-wise with you guys?
Not much.
Joe,
No.
Joe, I think you got Coraline coming
Wow.
up.
Yeah, Sam got invited to I guess they're re-releasing Coraline this
for 2 days
week
this
in
week, yeah.
theaters. Yeah, so Sam and I are gonna check that out. I've actually never seen it before, so it's gonna be first time watch for me. So we'll watch next week. I'll definitely give my thoughts on Coraline. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's really good. And I think they
Yeah.
were talking about making a sequel, which I wouldn't. Well, you'll see the film, so
Yeah,
report back.
definitely. We'll talk about it next week. Non-horror wise, I saw Barbie, so
Yeah.
jumped on the Barbie
Initial
train.
thoughts?
It was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was cute. Yeah, it was good. It had like really good messaging. Everyone's like, I've noticed a lot of people are saying it's like an anti-men movie, but I don't think so at all, actually. I think like, yeah, sure, there's definitely like some stuff in there about like men being idiots and stuff, but like at the end,
We are
I think
idiots, though. So
we
to
are
be
right, and
fair,
I'm fun. Right, we are. We're dummies. But at the end, I think Ken has like a really good arc. So I think he finds himself, and I think it plays on like a lot of stereotypes for men and women and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a good movie. It was better than I was expecting it to be. So yeah, I'd recommend it. I mean, between that and Oppenheimer, the two big blockbusters of the year, I would take Oppenheimer personally, but Barbie's a good time, and I can see why so many people are like super into it. I really appreciated that everything was like practical too. Like all the set designs were like all practical, like hardly any CGI. So that was really cool.
awesome. Michael Cera's in it. He's a Ken doll, isn't he?
He's Alan, which is
Ah,
like
Alan.
it was like a Ken doll, like a failed Ken doll, I think. So he's like the only Alan in
Oh,
like the
really?
Barbie land. It's like a
That's very
running
funny.
joke. It's pretty funny, yeah. But
Yeah, my wife and daughter saw it. I'm gonna wait personally till it comes out and streaming, but I mean, it looks like a stupid fun ride. I know I like Gosling and obviously Robbie. She's a babe, so Steve's currently fighting off a ghost that we can't see.
A cat, more like.
Yeah,
Try to get on top of my autographs. So
nice.
that's how they be.
Hmm.
All right, you guys want to get into a little bit of tea?
Oh, you want the tea? I'm sorry. We don't serve tea. Nope. Instead, you get a cup of Joe. And now here's Joe with the news.
alrighty, thank you so much, Chuck. And here we go. This is your cup of Joe for the week. Let's start off with probably the one of the biggest pieces of horror news that has come out within the past couple weeks, and that is Radio Silence is out on Scream 7. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Radio Silence will not be returning to direct Scream 7, and they have announced their new director. Christopher Landon has officially come on board to direct Scream 7. Who is Christopher Landon, you may ask? Well, you may know him from a couple of movies, most notably Happy Death Day. So, I think say what you will about Happy Death Day. I like the sequel better. I believe he also did that one recently with Vince Vaughn as well. I believe he
Freaky, which
directed
I
that.
think both of you guys
Yeah,
watched.
You did,
Freaky, which we both enjoyed. So, I think he can do well with this. I think he he's able to blend sort of comedy and horror pretty well together. And that's what's kind of the Scream franchise is sort of all about. Apparently, so the reason Radio Silence is not coming back is they are heavily in development on a secret sort of Universal Monsters type movie right now, which is kind of being kept under wraps about exactly what is going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be a Monster Squad sort of remake. I think that would be amazing, but that's just all speculation. But yeah, what do you guys think? Are you guys bummed? No Radio Silence?
I'm not bummed that they're not doing it because I don't, we all know my feelings on the second one. It wasn't that good, and first one was passable. But you know what? My biggest issue with it is continuity wise. Like, let them do the third one, figure out the scheduling because they had their arc in their mind. And it's the problem with these trilogies too. Like Star Wars as an example, you have one filmmaker that has his vision, and then another one comes in and has to kind of adhere to his vision but get his own spin on it. So yeah, man, like as much as like I wish that the current trilogy was a little bit better, it sucks that it's not going to be consistent because now this new guy's going to come in and want to do his spin on it. So I prefer that they did something totally different and finish the trilogy off. But oh well.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I'm not super bummed though. It's like whatever. Maybe we'll get a better Scream 7. I think Radio Silence might work better without like an IP, kind of do their own thing like they did with Ready or Not. So hopefully they can get back on track. Like Scream 6 was okay, not great to me, but yeah, we'll see what they do. I'll wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I should also note that Radio Silence will be staying on as executive producers. And another sticking point, interestingly enough, is Jenna Ortega. Will she be returning? Apparently, she signed onto her deal well before she kind of blew up with Wednesday and all that. So a lot of people think there might be a sticking point with her returning, considering they wouldn't give Nev money to return. So, and Jenna's price is probably going to go up for the 7th movie. So there has been talk that she might not return for Scream 7, which would be interesting.
If she signed a contract, she has to return. So
she signed a contract for the first 2 movies. Apparently, she hasn't signed it for this one. Right?
They're fucked up.
Yeah. So she's going to require quite a big pay raise for her to come back, and the question will be, will they pay her?
So I know we were joking around a little bit in the chat about Dewey and Nev's thoughts on Dewey being killed off, and she thought it was a mistake. And then one of you guys commented, "We never saw Dewey's body." Do you agree with that? Is that a joke? Do you think he's gonna come back? What do you think?
Steve's the one that made that comment. I don't know. I think it would be silly
like
at this
behind
point.
The scenes, fucking, it was me.
I don't know. It's just these like you said. I think Todd, you're the one who said that guy got freaking shot or stabbed a million times in the last movie and was totally fine afterwards. So there are no rules in this thing, and they could do a whole kind of meta thing of returning characters and never being dead and all that stuff. So I can actually see him coming back. I hope not, kind of, because it would be really stupid, but I wouldn't be mad about it either because it's still Dewey and I like him. So we'll see.
We will see. All right, next bit of news here is I always usually end the show sad news, so I'm just going to throw it in the middle here tonight. Rest in peace to, of course, Oscar-winning Exorcist filmmaker William Friedkin. He passed away this week at the age of 87. Just an iconic, obviously, name in horror. He, of course, won Best Director at the Academy Awards in 1973 for The Exorcist. Also won in 72 as well. So shout out to him. Yeah, Exorcist was my number one horror movie of the 70s. I think it made number 2 on the Ultimate list. I think it made all of our lists, though. Just an iconic horror movie. Still today, I think really the only, quote unquote horror movie, Silence of the Lambs, maybe, but Exorcist is really the true, really only horror movie to win, an Oscar. So yeah, shout out to him. Long life though, 87 years old. So rest in peace, William Friedkin.
Hey, he had a good run, and what more do you want? A legacy of a film that is going to last till the end of time. And 87, you said, and it didn't Get Out won an Oscar, right, for comedy or something stupid?
It won
I think writing.
Best Screenplay, I believe, original screenplay.
Yeah, it's a Golden Globe that was nominated for Best Comedy.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, but excellent run. So RIP.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into this because I know Steve and Todd, I'm sure, are going to have some things to say about this. Twilight of the Dead. George A. Romero's planned zombie movie apparently is finally going to be coming to life. So before George passed away in 2017, he had been developing one final zombie movie, Twilight of the Dead, which had shown, of course, brief signs of life, but apparently it is now it's going to see the light of day, apparently. So the George A. Romero estate is teaming up with LA-based finance producer Roundtable to bring Twilight of the Dead to life. Thoughts?
Twilight's been kicked around way before Land of the Dead even came out. That was like always like the planned fourth film. So I'm worried in the sense that, well, I mean, one, George passed away. He can't control the IP anymore, which is a problem. And then two, if how much writing he got done for the film, was it pre Land of the Dead or was it post Survival of the Dead, which is two big fucking differences in his career quality wise. So I mean, I love George, favorite director hands down, but those last two films were bad. So I don't know. We'll see. Plus, of course, I want to see it. It's gonna be awesome to see Romero's name on there and his little touches. But is it really his film at this point? We'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well. He might have written it, but by the time it goes through editing and like on screen choices and all that stuff, it's not really his film. It's not. I wouldn't see it as a Romero film. I just see it as something like inspired by Romero. So I would still definitely see it, but I'm not like as excited as the amusement park I was, because that was actually a Romero film and that was awesome.
Heck yeah, that was great.
Yeah. One last note here. George's last wife, Suzanne Romero, who is the executor of his estate. She will be producing the movie, so she's in heavy sort of negotiations. They have not picked a director yet, so stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date, but at least someone in George's family is going to be involved some way, somehow, in this final movie of his.
Rob Zombie's Twilight of the Dead?
Oh, maybe. Never know. He hasn't done like zombies yet, really, right? Like,
I don't think so.
House of a Thousand Corpses kind of had some zombie sort of things in it, but yeah, we'll see. All right, talk to me, ladies and gentlemen. One of sort of the hottest indie horror movies that has come out. I don't think there's any surprise here. We are going to be getting a sequel to Talk to Me, as A24 has ordered a sequel to, of course, the movie, which it did an impressive 26 million worldwide already on, I know it was a very small budget. Okay, it was made on a $4.5 million budget, so it's already made its money back plus then some. I think once it hits streaming too, I think it's going to find an even bigger sort of voice once more and more people see it. But yeah, me and Steve are the only two who have seen it so far. Todd's going to get on it. But Steve, are you excited for a Talk to Me sequel?
Yeah, I mean, this story just screamed sequels, and they even kind of set one up at the end there. So yeah, I'm excited. Talk to Me is in my top 3 so far this year. It was really, really good, well-made film, very scary. So hopefully they kind of keep it that way. They don't start camping it up and trying to reach a wider audience or whatever the fuck they do with these movies. But I'm psyched. I think it could be very good.
Yeah, agreed. I'm really excited. I think the universe could be expanded a lot. Like, I think there's a lot to explore there. I'm sure if we end up covering this, I think, we can get more into it, but there's like a lot of really interesting stuff that they showed towards the end of the movie when they kind of saw like some flashback sort of into the universe scenes that I think could be explored even more, that could really open up this universe. But I'm really excited, and so excited that I wanted to throw this into the news. A24 is going to be releasing a replica of the Talk to Me hand, so keep an eye on that. I'm pretty excited for that. I'm definitely going to be picking it up, despite Sam's strong objections for me not getting it.
Does but A24 put props out? Like, is it like a spirit kind of thing?
It'll be super limited and probably expensive. That's kind of what they do with their sort of prop replicas and stuff like that. Like, they released a bear in a cage for Midsummer, and it sold out like within minutes. So you kind of
like a NECA kind of style figure. So
yeah, sort of. So they like releasing little things like that. But they sell a lot of like cool t-shirts and hats and stuff on their website too for all the movies they do. So definitely check it out. They have a replica of the mermaid in soap form from the lighthouse for anyone that might want that. That is still available. So
Well,
yeah, go check them out.
For all the parents out there, kids are going back to school this week and next. Therefore, I will be returning back to the movie theaters so I can watch them in peace on Thursday mornings where there's no one there. So maybe I'll catch it before it leaves.
Perfect. Dude, yeah, speaking of that, we went and saw Barbie on like a Wednesday afternoon. It was fucking sold out. The movie's been out for like almost a month. It blew my mind. I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, man, it's just that train will not die. It's just full steam ahead. All right, here's one I think is going to be really interesting, and I think this would be perfect for us to cover a double feature of, as we are going to be getting a remake of the 1980s cult classic Street Trash. So interestingly enough, Fried Barry director, who we had on the show a couple years ago, he will be directing this remake. Ryan Kruger is his name. He is going to be directing this remake. This is going to be a Screambox original, which is Bloody Disgusting's streaming platform, and they are expecting to release it in early 2024. They went on to say our reimagining of Street Trash takes place in South Africa, where the growing divide between rich and poor has changed the world as we know it. Ryan Kruger said, I was a huge fan of the original Street Trash when I was a kid, and I couldn't be more thrilled to introduce a whole new generation to the melted gonzo goodness that made the original such a success. Have you guys seen Street Trash? Are you guys excited for a potential remake here?
I'm looking at Letterboxd, and I recognize the artwork, but I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, I haven't either, but from the screens that I did see of Street Trash, I think Ryan Kruger is actually a really good choice because Fried Barry was a wild movie, and this looks like a wild property, so I'd definitely watch it. And yeah, double feature would be awesome.
All right, awesome. All right, just a couple more stories to get through here. Here's one I found to be really interesting, and that is, of course, the sort of Universal Monsters universe that is happening. Well, apparently we are going to be getting a Bride of Frankenstein movie. Maggie Gyllenhaal, of all people, is reportedly in talks to direct the movie, and this is going to be slated for a Netflix release. That's really all the information we have right now. But yeah, what do you guys think about this?
I mean, we'll see. It's actually, because it's a Netflix release, I'm kind of a little less excited about it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that story could be a theatrical film, so we'll see. And I don't think I've ever seen her, like I've seen her act a lot, but I've never seen anything she's directed, so I don't know what that will be like. But she's talented, so hopefully she can do something great with that story.
Alrighty, a quick little tidbit here. Andre Overdahl, who directed the first Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, has come out and said recently that the sequel is in development, so we are going to be getting a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark 2, which I think could be pretty fun. I think, we had some issues with the first one, but I think most of it, we were mostly positive on that one when we did review it. So I think they could really expand that universe and do something pretty fun with it. And then the last bit of news here I wanted to talk about is, for you Halloween fanatics out there, HalloweenCostumes.com is releasing a 20-foot tall Michael Myers inflatable. Yes, you heard that right. 25 feet tall, absolutely massive. If you put that in your yard, make sure you tie that thing down good, or it's going to fucking do some damage in the neighborhood. But it is going to be released. They're also releasing two different sizes as well. They are going to be releasing an 8-foot version and a 15-foot version as well of, this is an officially licensed, I should mention, Michael Myers inflatable. So the 8-foot version is going to be priced at $119.99, 15-foot version at $299.99, and of course the gargantuan 25-foot tall Michael Myers that you'll be able to see from fucking miles away, $499.99. So,
Boy.
You want to do a little wow factor in your neighborhood, maybe grab that 25-foot tall Michael Myers and hear the neighbors all up in arms about that one.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and they have it up against a house, and I'm like, this just dwarfs the house. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Dude, there's no way. I have a 14-foot Frankenstein's monster, and to fucking keep him in place is such an ordeal. I have to tie him like to a tree. I have to go up the tree in a ladder to make sure that I tie him like from the neck and from the arms. And there's no fucking way a 25-foot thing is going to be easy to keep down, especially if you're planning to keep it more than just Halloween like night. Now, fuck that noise. It's way too big.
Put it in your house like Clark Griswold with his fucking tree.
Yeah, right.
That thing's too big. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see some pictures and videos of people who, when they actually get it, and then see like some of the destruction. Because I
Just
know
going through a window.
someone, I know for a fact someone is not going to tie it down good, and that thing is going to go flying, and it's going to be awesome. So, yeah. So $4.99. You want to spend $500 on something pretty interesting? You can spend your $500 a lot worse. So, grab it, throw it in our Discord. We want to see pictures. Do it up. But that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen, for horror news this week. We hope you enjoyed it. Steve, how about another cup of Joe?
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
All right. Well watched.
Sure.
Okay. What have you been watching, Todd?
Well, we try to do once a month movie night or movie day with my buddies, Brent and TJ. They are listeners, just not on Discord. And they are going to be in the first annual Horror Squad Podcast Fantasy Football Tournament, which I just did the draft. We did the draft layout for everybody. So we figured out who's going to pick what. But anyway, I brought a movie called Burial Ground. And I had seen it before, but have you seen that one, Steve?
Charlotte Copley in it?
No, this is from 81.
Oh no, I don't.
So basically, Burial Ground is like it's a time film, and a group of people go to this like estate, and there's been some research. There's like a catacombs below the estate, and of course, like there's just fucking scientists that unearth zombies, right? And then we have I think it's 3 sets of couples, and then one couple has this creepy fucking son that I'm pretty sure it's a grown man, but that's just small, like not little person small, just like I guess passes off as a kid. But when you watch this film, you would be so fucking creeped out about what this little fucking creepy kid does. So there's zombies going around, and they're trying to fight them off, things like that. But the worst stuff in here is kind of the incestuous relationship between this very strange boy slash man and his mother, to the point where he like attempts to finger bang her, and is fucking disturbing, and then breastfeed her. And when she like fights him off, he's like, "But mother, I love breastfeeding, mother." And he talks like that, like a fucking grown man. It's so weird. I think the zombies are really cool. They look similar to Lucio Fulci's Zombie. So I know Steve and I both love that movie. This one, it's a solid 3.5, 3 out of 5. It's got some really goofy stuff, but man, like I want everyone to see this film just for this kid slash man's performance, because gosh damn, he's fucking crazy. Like, it's just nuts. So that's Burial Ground from 81. I don't think it's streaming. Let me double check. I think it just on demand on Prime, but Burial Ground from 81.
Cool. Yeah, I'm like conflicted because I want to watch it for the zombie stuff and the dude, but I also don't want to watch it because of the weird incest shit.
It's implied throughout the film until
good.
One particular scene where I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But please see it, because that kid's fucking
if I can find
disturbing.
it, I'll definitely check it out. So my first movie is a movie I watched over on I think it was VOD, and it is a 2023 film by the name of Clock. So this is the story of a woman. She's in her late 30s, and all of her friends are getting pregnant, or they already have families, and people are like, well, when are you going to have a kid? You know, like kind of that old thing. And she doesn't really want one, but her husband, who's a doctor, does. And there's this kind of like weird relationship where, you know, it's kind of breaking the relationship up a little bit. So she decides that it's not her, it's her biological clock that's like messed up. So she goes to the doctor, and she like talks to her about it, and she's like, well, we have this kind of experimental procedure that we can do that will kind of awaken your biological clock. You'd have to go over to a retreat and do it. So she's like, okay, I'll do that, but I'm not going to tell my husband about it. So she like lies to her husband saying she's going on a business trip, but she actually goes to this facility for this experimental procedure. And there it's led by a doctor played by Melora Hardin, who most people would know as Jan Levinson Gould from The Office. And yeah, so she's going through this place and they're giving her pills and giving her like therapy and really trying to get her biological clock going again. But as she's going through this process, she's noticing that the other patients there are acting really weird and there's something off about the whole situation. And then she starts seeing kind of creepy imagery in her dreams, and she's starting to have like hallucinations that she's not sure if it's a dream or reality. And it just gets fucking wild from there. The movie is actually pretty good. It's shot kind of like A24 style. It's not an A24 film, but it's shot in that style. And the creepy imagery, one in particular, was fucking nightmare fuel. Like really, really, really well done. It's like this tall woman creeped me the fuck out, like honestly. So for that almost alone, I'd recommend people checking it out. It is a little bit slow at times. Like there are some scenes that just drag on and on, but I think it's one worth watching at the very least. It's not going to make my top 10 or anything like that, but I think it should be one on people's radar. So that's Clock over on VOD.
Cool. And the second to last one for me was another one from the movie day, and that's The Driller Killer from 1979, a film that I had started watching years ago and just never finished it for whatever reason. So essentially, there's this, it's in New York City, and it's fucking gross. The city is disgusting and all that stuff. And this artist that's filmed like that, he's painting like his masterpiece for this art dealer that's super shady, and like to the point where like, well, maybe you should let him have sex with you and you get your art published or whatever it's called. So he's gross. He has two girlfriends that live with him, and then this punk rock band moves in, I think below him, the floor below him, and they just fucking nonstop play their bullshit at all hours of the day, and it starts kind of making him go crazy to the point where he lashes out and he sees a commercial for a portable battery operated thing that plugs into like a drill, right? So it's called a porta pack. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna buy that, and he gets a drill, thus the driller killer, and he goes around killing homeless people and things like that. I wish that it focused more on his descent into madness. Think the movie The Devil's Candy did it like perfectly. That movie's awesome. This movie's good too, but it kind of rushes things along. Like we have too much focus on stuff that doesn't matter, like the punk rock scene, things like that. And I wish it would have shown it from his perspective of like his slow descent into madness before he snaps. Good, some okay gore in it. It's pretty tame. It was a video nasty, but I don't understand why. Like they sometimes labeled it for no reason. Performances are solid. It's ultra low budget, but I think it does a great job of portraying how just disgusting this person's life was in this movie. So that's the Driller Killer. And streaming wise, it is over on Tubi for American audiences.
Nice. So my last one this week is another 2023 film that I watched over on Tubi, and it's called Tell Me a Creepy Story. So every year I have this like self-imposed goal of watching 100 horror films from the year so that I have the best list possible for our year-end show. And the way that I usually achieve this, especially like, the first half of the year, is I add every 2023 movie that's horror on Tubi and just watch the ones that interest me the most. A lot of them are crap, and I don't even talk about this show, to be honest. But this one, I don't know. I had a feeling that this one might be actually good. So Tell Me a Creepy Story is an anthology film. It's got 4 separate stories. The first one is about a mother who gives birth to a son, and she notices that the son has like a weird eating disorder where he constantly eats but doesn't gain any weight. He just eats and eats and eats, and it's becoming a real problem because like she can't breastfeed because he's trying to eat her nipple, and as he grows up, it's starting to cause problems with other kids in the neighborhood and things like that. And it becomes like this slow descent of this mother trying to deal with this nightmare child. There's one scene in particular that I'm not going to spoil, but it really makes you think, like, if you have that bad of a child and it's presented as a really, really bad child, if you see him dying, do you try to save him or do you just kind of let him go and cut your loss? So it deals with like painful motherhood and everything like that. Super well made, gory, great practical effects. Actually, really excellent story. The second one is about a man who's has disagreements with his wife, and she seems to be like a vegetarian, and she keeps feeding him vegetables, but there's meat in the fridge and he wants to eat it, but she won't let him. So he like just slightly pushes her, but she like trips on herself and then ends her face into the open dishwasher and has her like she gets impaled by the knives in the dishwasher like on her face. So he tries to kind of cover it up by cutting her to pieces and putting her into the garden. And then the story kind of takes place of weird things happening in the garden and things that are reminding him of her. And these creatures start emerging from the garden, which leads to a surprising and actually pretty cool ending. So that's a really cool story as well. The other two, not so much, unfortunately. It was two good stories, two bad stories. One of them is about this kind of missionary. He's like a priest, kills families. He just goes from family to family and kills them. And you see him at the beginning. He's like in bed with a deceased woman with her husband also in the room. He goes to another family, but now he meets this match. This family is not as easy as the other ones he had dealt with. And I won't go more than that, but there's things that happen between the couple and the missionary. And finally, we have a tale of it's like a kind of home invasion. This girl, she's alone at home because she broke up with her boyfriend, and she calls a plumber for an issue in her bathroom. Plumber comes. She's like, okay, go upstairs. This is where you could fix the problem. 2 minutes later, another plumber shows up from the company that she had told her, and she's like, wait a minute, you already sent someone. He's like, that's not possible. I'm the only one working tonight. And it becomes kind of this home invasion thing. But there's also like visions that she has of her ex-boyfriend. It's a really weird story. I was kind of losing the thread a little bit on this one. So, like I said, two really good stories, two not so good stories. But for an indie movie on Tubi that's got like very few, it's got 12 reviews, including mine on Letterboxd. I think it's one people should check out, especially for the first two. So it's actually the first two that are good and the second two that are bad. So that's Tell Me a Creepy Story on Tubi. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which I also gave 3 out of 5 stars for Clock. So yeah.
I gotta say that plumber story sounds pretty dang good, except when you start talking about the visions.
It's just done really weird. It could have been good, but I don't know. I was losing what was going on. They were mixing too many ideas into one story, I think. But the first two, really cool. Yeah.
And that's a pet peeve in horror. Like, who the fuck they did that in Stitches too, that clown movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who puts knives facing
yeah.
No one. But it still it makes for a cool thing.
It makes for a cool kill. That's and a cool accidental kill, right? Because it's not like how else would a knife like get into her in a way that makes sense, right? That's kind of one of the. So yeah, it's good. I was surprised for such a unknown movie. There are gems out there, and this is
for sure. I added it to my.
It's half of one.
Tubi list. It's like 700 deep, probably.
No, I know. Just me, my watch list, my Tubi list. It's out of control.
Yeah.
Trivia.
All right. The points for quarter 3 are as follows. Myself, Todd, in the lead with 12. Steve and Joe each tied at 7 apiece. Any man's game. Also, the overall record is pretty close too, but we will save that till the end of quarter 3 to reveal that. So I will begin. And it is a tagline. And if you don't get it, I will move to the back of the Blu-ray to see what happens. Tagline. It's exactly what you think it is.
That sounds familiar. I feel like we've had this one before.
I think someone asked it like 3 years ago.
I can't remember though.
Back of the Blu-ray. Grindhouse Releasing is proud to present the sickest and the most violent of all the early 80s slasher movies. A psychotic killer stalks a Boston campus, brutally slaughtering nubile young college co-eds, collecting body parts from each victim to create the likeness of his mother.
Pieces?
Yeah, it is Pieces. Yeah,
I torso my mind with Pieces. Nice. It's a good movie. That's a sick movie.
That's fucking good.
Yeah,
movie.
it is.
Hell yeah. It's got a really cool Blu-ray too. Ding.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, 3 Letterboxd reviews. Guess the movie. There is not a single redeemable quality about this entire film. Fuck this utter garbage. It is disgusting. All right, number 2. Unsettling ultra shock loaded with disturbing images, gratuitous violence, despicable acts, lush cinematography, and tons of commentary on the duality of man. So that was 5. It is not.
Ooh.
And then number 3. I've never felt so convinced to go vegan before in my life.
I got one more after.
Yeah, that's a tell right there. Vegan, so eating people. Cannibal Holocaust.
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were doing Feed Me.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, is it fucking Feed Me?
Yeah. All right. So I didn't write any trivia this week because we're recording earlier than anticipated. So Kayla to the rescue.
Yeah.
An
Yes.
email she sent me like
Out of retirement.
8 months ago that I keep
Hey.
handy for occasions like this. So
Yeah, exactly.
super appreciate it. First one. In The Innkeepers 2011, Leanne is leaving what profession to study the supernatural?
I don't know
Teaching.
if I've ever seen it.
I've never seen it either.
Oh,
Teaching.
so good. God. No, it's not teaching. You want to take a guess, Joe?
Stripper.
Wrong.
Nursing.
No,
She's a nurse. She's a sexy nurse.
she isn't. No.
Damn.
So the answer is acting.
Ah.
Yeah, very good movie.
Innkeepers.
Yeah, worth
Okay.
checking.
Let me. All I need to add to the letterbox. All right. Tagline, but I will also go to the Blu-ray because you're not gonna get this one. He puts the teeth in terror. 2 college students driving coast to coast are lured off the main highway and onto a deserted Texas road. Here they are stalked by the menacing Leatherface and his demented family, a bizarre cannibalistic clan with blood on their hands and a feast on their minds.
Texas Chainsaw 2.
Incorrect.
Leatherface?
Correct. Leatherface.
There you go.
Which I love. Ken Foray's in it. He's a beast.
So there are 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies called Leatherface, because wasn't the sort of
The
prequel
2017 one.
Yeah, the shitty one.
The stupid ass one.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention Innkeepers, a Ty West film. I know.
Oh, you know what? I think. Wait, which is the one where it's like a babysitter and the guy shoots the
No,
babysitter in
that's
the
House of the
face?
Devil.
That's House of the Devil. Okay, I haven't
Yeah,
seen it.
Innkeepers like ghosts in a like old hotel.
I'm surprised you haven't seen that one, Joe.
I know.
It's your time.
I've been meaning to watch it. I just haven't jumped on it yet.
Let me see where it's at online first. It's on Tubi for us Americans.
Nice.
Tubi.
Nice.
Alrighty.
That's my list.
I got a tagline here too. And if you guys don't get it, I will also read a little plot synopsis.
Oh, nice.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, I know that one. All right. Fuck. I'm not gonna blow my load here.
Yeah, me too. I have one in my chamber though.
All right. Plot synopsis. A group of student activists travel to the Amazon to save
Green
the
Inferno.
rainforest. Correct.
Yes. Fuck that movie.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Still from Kayla. What name did Sydney use while on the phone so that no one can track her calls and find her in
Laura.
Springfield? Correct.
Damn, nice. That was
Yes,
on like the screen, right?
Maureen
Screen
Prescott. Maureen Prescott's going to be doing her first ever convention appearance coming
really?
up at Schiller Theater in New Jersey. So
You gonna hit it or what?
no, I'm not hitting that one up.
Yeah.
So I would probably meet her though. I'd add her to something Scream.
Yeah, if you have your Scream shit, might as well.
Yeah, if you got like a good Scream piece, she's like a pretty rare one. So
It's back to me.
Yep.
All right. Blank is an intense sci-fi horror thriller about a team of scientists aboard the International Space Station whose mission of discovery turns into one of primal fear when they find a rapidly evolving life form and caused extinction on Mars, and now threatens the crew and all life on Earth.
is that Life?
That is Life.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Never seen that one. Good.
It's cool, yeah.
I've never seen it either, but I know what it's about.
Got cool Blu-ray. Check that out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
All right, back to me.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to give you characters from the movie and the director.
Okay.
And then you see if you can guess the movie. All right. Here is the cast of characters in the movie. Doug, Ethel, Lynn, Big Bob, and Brenda. Director, Alexander Aha. If you want to take a guess, I'll give you more characters, which will definitely give it away.
Yeah.
High tension.
Incorrect. All right. So here we
Do I
go.
have to wait for Steve now?
No, it's fine.
No.
Okay.
So here are the other characters. We have Big Brain, Goggle, Lizard, and Papa Jupiter.
Oh, it's
Hills Have
the
Eyes.
remake of Hills Have Eyes.
Correct. Hills Have eyes.
Yeah,
Oh,
boy.
damn it. Big Bob.
I forgot he directed that. That's the cop.
Big Bob is
Right.
the dad,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Buffalo, whatever.
played by Ted Levine.
Sure, you great big fat lady.
All right, last one. A zombie western? Yes. Which horror comedy features Chris Kattan in the Wild West trying to survive a
God.
Native American curse that brings the dead to life?
Hmm.
It's like
I don't know if I've seen it. It sounds familiar though. Like I feel
What's
like
it
I know
called?
Chris Kattan.
Yeah, is it called like Undead of the West or something?
You're very close.
Damn.
No, but you're close.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know either.
I don't know. Just Undead.
Zombies of the Undead West.
No. So the answer was Undead or Alive.
Ah,
I've never seen it. Have you seen it, Steve?
no.
Nope.
No.
I didn't know Chris Kattan did a horror movie.
Well, he did what was that
Oh,
one?
that's right. The House on Haunted Hill.
House
remake.
on Haunted Hill. Yeah, the remake.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. So Joe and I tied this week with 3 piece. Steve at 1, which brings us to myself, Todd, in the lead with 15. Joe second, 10. Steve third, 8. All right. Feed Me, which is a Steve pick. Go ahead and take it away.
All right. Feed Me, directed by Adam Leader and Richard Oakes. It's a 2022 film. The plot: following the death of his wife, a broken man spirals into an abyss of night terrors and depression and finds himself in the home of a deranged cannibal who convinces him to take his own life in the most horrific way imaginable. So it starts off with a guy. He seems to have been like broken up with his wife, but he still misses her and he wants to talk to her. She's going through some stuff, and he like calls her and leaves messages on her phone. But meanwhile, police have been summoned to her house and they find her dead. It turns out that she had an eating disorder and unfortunately passed away from that. So the guy doesn't feel like he has much to live for anymore. And after the eulogy at the funeral, he goes to a bar, and this goofy, interesting character, kind of like a used car salesman, comes up to him and basically tells him that he could provide a service that is like an end of life service, assisted suicide kind of, but in a way that would kind of cleanse his soul and make sure that he reunited with his wife. So he's like, okay, that doesn't sound too good. But then he realizes that what he wants to do is actually eat him alive. And then that will somehow, in a weird way, like make him more pure for to go to heaven. So the guy decides, okay, let's do this, and he goes to this guy's house, and that's where the movie kind of takes off as he starts eating him piece by piece. Meanwhile, trying to live his life by trying to date and just avoiding police and stuff like that. So this is a movie. It's an indie movie that doesn't have a lot of reviews on Letterboxd. It came out last year. I saw someone mention it on Twitter once, and I didn't have it available in Canada, so I put it on my watch list. And when I went to South Carolina for a couple of weeks, I saw that it was on Tubi in the US. So I checked it out, and like I don't think it would have necessarily made my top 10 of 2022, but I think this would have been my favorite male performance of 2022 for the main character of like the cannibal. So I figured I want to put more eyes on this. So when I had my pick, I wanted you guys to see it. I know you hadn't. So very curious what you guys think. So obviously I liked it. You know, I wouldn't have picked it otherwise. What do you guys think of Feed Me?
Yeah, so this was not on my radar at all. Never heard of it really. I don't remember if it made anyone's 2022 list last year. I'll have to go back and look at my paperwork for that. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised while watching it. I had a lot of fun with it. It's tonally, it's very weird. It reminded me in some parts of The Greasy Strangler in some ways. Like it has like sort of this sort of goofy tone, but at other times it has a very serious tone as well. So yeah, it kind of throws you for a loop at times. And I don't think this will be everyone's cup of tea, but if you are into those like a Greasy Strangler type movie, I think you'll totally enjoy this. The gore is great, awesome practical effects, during the cannibal scenes. And yeah, Neil Ward, who plays Lionel Flack, our cannibal, yeah, it's an awesome performance. I agree with Steve. Really awesome. Yeah, really good. But it's really, we'll get into it, but man, his character is really layered once we get to the end of the movie. Like it gets like very sort of dark and serious, but also off the wall at the same time. So yeah, I mean, I overall enjoyed it. I wish they sort of picked a lane though, and either went just completely one way or the other instead of kind of incorporating both. Because at times it definitely threw me off and took me out of the scenes. But overall, I had a really fun time with this one.
I agree with everything. Overall, enjoyed it quite a bit, and I mirror you guys saying the performance from Lionel was fucking excellent. Like he was great, and I got those vibes too. I got vibes of Greasy Strangler, and then I also got it of What We Do in the Shadows, particularly when they're fooling the police officers in the house, and then these ones and this one are fucking dumb as shit too. But the problem with it too is exactly what you guys have is that like, does it want to be a horror comedy? Because that stuff works by itself, but then does it want to be a horror drama? Because that stuff works by itself. But when they're intermixed so much, it's from like it's kind of jarring. You'll go from the police like not caring that the walls are covered in blood, you know what I mean, to some like intense scene where he's seeing his dead wife, you know. So it's like, this is kind of a little bit too jarring. But overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I got like kind of the same feeling as well. As those films, it gave me a little bit of Greasy Strangler vibes because there are things that are put in there for shock value. Like for example, at his dinner table, he has this giant painting of his mom naked on a table, like super old mom, like probably in her late 70s, early 80s.
Champagne.
Drinking champagne, yeah. He's got a pet goldfish that he really loves that's like in the middle, almost like a chandelier to his room. His house is absolutely fucking disgusting. There are a lot of side
It's
plots
got a
too.
lamp room.
Yeah, he's got a lamp room because he collects lamps from all his kills. It's like his, I guess his signature is to collect lamps because there's a whole like side story where he's trying to date and he's super fucking awkward and it leads to places that were kind of unexpected. But I agree that the tonally it's all over the place. Now I enjoyed that because I never knew what would come next, and I think it ultimately served the story well. But at the same time, I wish they had focused on some of the elements a little bit more, especially kind of the cannibalism and all the stuff with like our main kind of protagonists in this. Because you have these intense, crazy scenes where he's cutting off limbs, and then it just goes to something totally different that has really nothing to do with it. And I wish we saw more of that because, like, the scene where they cut off his arm in particular is horrifying because he doesn't put him under, he doesn't give him any like pain pills, and he has a hard time cutting the arm off because it's just like not coming off. So he has to keep chipping away at it. He keeps pulling at it, and just to imagine the intense pain. And they really conveyed that scene well, and it's done practically, which is even better. Now, of course, it looks a little goofy at times because like once the arm pulled off, it's obviously a rubber arm, things like that. But I can forgive it because they at least tried it practically as opposed to doing like CGI. The only CGI in this movie is for the flies around his wife's body at the beginning, but I guess that was hard to do practically, so I can forgive that.
Yeah, and I really love the scene where he gets his legs cut off and he gives him some kind of shot. It's probably an epidural kind of thing to his spine. And then shout out to that actor too. He did pretty well, especially in that scene where he's crying, and you can just imagine how that feels because he's taking like an electric turkey carving knife, whatever you want to call it, to his legs, and then yeah, that's awful. But yeah, I would have loved to see. As funny and awkward as it was, I think the dating is kind of not needed in the story. And I think if you cut that out and then add more stuff where like I wanted to see more where he's vulnerable, like no legs, one arm, he's at the mercy of him. And at this point, he's like, oh shit, he truly is a bad guy, even though we already know he is. But now to him, from his point of view, he's like, oh fuck, he's evil, whatever. It would have been really cool to see him in a more vulnerable state. But we kind of go from vulnerable to almost the end of the film pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That was actually one of my, I was going to ask you guys is, did you think the sort of dating side plot was necessary? And I really don't think it was. Like, the movie's at not about 90 minutes, which perfect. Love it. Keep your movies at an hour and a half and under, and I love you. But yeah, like I agree, Todd. Like I just it really didn't go anywhere. It was kind of there, I guess, for sort of comedic value and to kind of, I guess, harp on that character a little more, the Lionel character. But yeah, it just didn't add anything for me. And then like the way he disposes of her is like so sort of lackluster. I guess it's to show that he's really snapping, but like when, they finally get to their big sort of date scene, it's just like he goes in and stabs her a few times and that's it. I wish he had brought her home maybe, and we could have seen him like maybe start cutting off her limbs or something and eating her. I think that would have been awesome, but unfortunately we didn't get any of that. So I think they should have just did away with her character altogether if they weren't going to go that route. And yeah, I agree, Todd. Just kind of focus on sort of maybe him locked in rooms, kind of dealing with that more. But that wasn't the tone they were going for. They were going for the more comedy, I feel like, here. So that I guess that's why they added that sort of side plot.
Yeah, I would have done two things personally. Like, I think you can keep the comedy and stuff, but I think you need to remove the police scene, the first one, where they're like bumbling idiots and like looking at all this stuff and they don't say anything and then they eat the fucking guy's meat. Like, give me a break. I think you remove that scene because if you remove that scene, it makes the next scene with the police more effective, where they show up and we know that they're in danger and that he has knives and shit like that. I think it makes it more manageable. But also with the girl too, there's an opportunity where she goes like something like, are you into any kind of weird shit? And then to Joe's point, that would have been really cool if he brought her back. It's like, this is my weird shit, and then see her reaction. And then like you still could have had the police find him because of her, like she went missing or whatever. But yeah, I think that there's some stuff left on the cutting room floor for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt about it as well. I thought it was good character development for him to go through that process of the relationship, but it should have tied into the overall story better. Now, I know that, the director, I think, would say something along the lines of it's that relationship that kind of unravels him, because he had it like together for most of the movie. And it's not until he goes on that date and kills her that he starts removing kind of the layers of, Lionel Fleck, and that's where he loses his like wig, and that's where we see the turn from him playing this character of, the way we had seen him the whole movie, to his actual like British self, because he's actually just playing an American. He's not actually American. So I thought it was an interesting way to do it. Just I wish it tied into the story a little bit more.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on that. Like, we're introduced to him as like kind of like a southern, like thick southern accent American, kind of bumbling around Great Britain, and then his accent starts coming in and out, and then he's a crazy Englishman, I guess, at the end of the day. But I thought that was pretty cool. Like, I another props to the actor, because accents are hard and he pulled it off.
Yeah, and the toupee is great. Like, it's such a fucking shitty
loved
ass
it.
toupee. It's just like it really adds to that character, like it's
Yeah.
so funny. And then when it does come off, like, and you kind of it turns really sad. Like, you realize like he's really just like this like super sort of, I don't know,
Sad
like
cannibal.
sad, depressed, like lonely guy. And he starts crying and stuff, and you start to kind of feel bad for him at one point, even though he is a sick fuck. So I actually really thought that was great. I thought that was fantastic, the way his sort of character arc completely changed from this like super ultra confident, debutante to just this sad, pathetic like man by the end of it.
Yeah. And I think something else I liked about the relationship is it allowed him to be vulnerable in a way that we wouldn't otherwise see, because he's not just psychotic and killing people. He actually cares about the guy he's killing. We see this throughout the movie where he values that friendship. He even tells the girl that he's trying to date how much like he was like bummed out that he thought he would escape the night before, because he said he and his roommate had ascended to the next level, which she thought he was gay, but he actually meant spiritually, which was an interesting scene. So I guess in that sense, the relationship does work, because how do you show him kind of vulnerable like that without, kind of verbalizing it to someone else? And I think that was an interesting way. Although, man, kudos to that girl. She was like really into him, because she forgave a lot of stuff to date him. Like, she wanted him bad.
It was his fashion sense she liked.
That was a great scene where they he wanted to do his profile pic. He's like trying out all these different outfits and shit.
His little tidy whities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at this director's like movie. He hasn't really done much else other than this, but I think so. He's done, it looks like 4 movies. His other latest one was a horror movie as well in 2020 called Hosts, which I have not seen. But we mentioned Ryan Kruger earlier, and this definitely gives me that sort of Fried Barry type theme as well. So yeah, that's God. I feel like they could team up and do a movie together almost, and it would be like off the wall crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. A few other notes that I took. I love the kind of fake outs that they were doing, like that one scene where the cop is in the bathroom and the body of the guy is in the bathtub, and you can see it in the shot at the angle that the camera's at, and you think that the cop sees it, but she doesn't, you know? Yeah, it's just stuff like that. I mean, obviously she would have seen it. It's a full ass body, like still breathing in there, but it was just a funny, like, kind of psych outs they did throughout the film. The last one was a little more obvious with the gun. Like, obviously, you wouldn't give him a loaded gun, you know, to shoot him, but still, it was well made.
So where do you think our main character goes from here? Because the way the movie ends, he ends up getting the best of Lionel in a very clever way, fucking knife right to the eye on the other end of the table with sort of a broken board, which is pretty cool.
Did I miss? Was that established earlier that board was broken?
I don't think so.
It was, yeah.
Maybe it was. Okay, maybe I missed it. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really like subtle. He just like leans against it and he like kind of jerks because it kind of comes up, and yeah. So I like that. It was like bringing back something so subtle to ultimately kill, Lionel was good.
Yeah, it's very cool. And yeah, I guess our lead character kind of realizes he doesn't want to die anymore. He wants to live and defeats Lionel. And so, but the dude has no fucking legs. I think he has one arm now. I mean,
probably all bacteria and infection come from that house. So I don't think he's gonna make it. I personally think he dies from severe bacterial infection.
All right.
Yeah, I would have liked them to finish the movie with just a shot like of him, just with his one arm left, like sitting somewhere like almost depressed, or just doing something that kind of shows that he lived, and I don't know, he's happy somehow, or he's like Lionel's almost like Jigsaw, right? He's like pushing you for your will to live. Like, do you actually want to live or do you want to die? So it's a weird way it's like another way of doing it, I guess.
I mean, he did sign a contract.
He did. That's right. So you can sue him. Post-mortem.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the barbecuing scenes? Did it make you like?
Oh, no. I mean, it didn't make me queasy or anything. I think they could have went even further with it, honestly. But yeah, it was. Hey, looked a little tasty. I'd try a finger. Why not?
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know where to go with that one. Would you honestly try it if it was like legal? And
yes.
You would? I don't think
I would.
I would.
Yeah, we talked about this in the past, I think. Everyone on Discord is like, what the fuck? I wouldn't. I'm not that adventurous.
Yeah. I would definitely try it at least once.
I read an article where a guy had his foot amputated. This is probably being regurgitated to the audience, but a guy got his foot amputated. He signed some waivers. He was able to take his foot back and made tacos for his friends. And like a couple of people backed out, but other people ate it. That's so fucking gross. I don't know, man.
Gnarly, man. Maybe it tastes delicious though. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
It could be good. Tastes like chicken,
I'm a Hannibal Lecter liked it.
Do you wish we got more? I'm sorry. Go ahed.
I was just gonna say all the cannibals seem to really like it. It's like
especially Hannibal.
It's funny because in movies, it's almost established that humans is the best cut of meat.
Yeah.
If you watch like horror movies, even like people who accidentally have human meat, they always think it's the best meat, right? Think any single movie where human meat is served, whether willingly or unwillingly, it's always like, holy shit, this is the best fucking meat. So in movie lore, it's humans, the top.
Humans good.
Humans the best, yeah.
To serve man.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a question. Do you guys think do you wish we got more, like, instead of, I guess, getting rid of that sort of side story with the woman, the dating stuff, do you wish we got maybe more backstory on Lionel, or do you think what they gave us was sort of enough?
I think it was enough because I think too much might have ruined the character a little bit. I felt we were discovering him as the movie went along. You know, like who is this guy? He's like wild. He's weird. He's got, you know, every time he talks to people, he's got a different job that he says he does. There's a super fucking weird scene on like inner tubes in the lake where he's like taking care of you know, like people with disabilities, which I don't that's the one scene
That's
I
my
don't
question
really
too.
understand. So is that his actual job and all the other ones are bullshit, like a dry cleaning job that he says he has with the business card, and then he says he's a fisherman at some point, but is that like his actual job? I was kind of confused by that one scene.
I don't know. Like, who's entrusting handicapped people within his care? Like, I don't know. I don't know. And he kills them, right? Like, lets them drown or
We
something.
don't know.
Yeah, we don't know for sure.
We
Yeah.
don't know for sure. They just kind of cut off when they're, you know, drowning, I guess, but we don't know what ultimately ended up happening with that.
Pretty fucked up, though.
Which is a sad scene, man. Honestly, I was bummed out because he was teaching them, quote unquote, like survival stuff. And he's like, all right, well, we have a survival situation. What do you do? And they blow their whistles. And then when he pops their boat, they start blowing their whistles. I'm like, man, this fucked up.
Yeah, I like to think that they lived. You know, like he's done through this before, and he's just fucking with the other dude. But who knows for sure? But just to get back to your question, Joe, I think I like discovering Lionel throughout the movie, and I think backstory would have hurt the movie because it wouldn't be as interesting. And he does a lot of it through dialogue. He talks about his relationship with his mother. He talks about, you know, so I liked it that way. To right up until the end, we're still learning about Lionel and who this guy is. So. And another thing I want to talk about is kudos for this movie at tackling such heavy fucking subjects in a way that wasn't like gratuitous, but also at the same time really like talking about those subjects like eating disorder, suicide. You know, these are heavy subjects that movies have a hard time tackling, and I thought they did that like in a good way. You know, they didn't glamorize it. They showed you eating disorders are bad, and you know, obviously suicide, you know, you don't want to go through that. It's interesting how they really hit these heavy themes. It's such a kind of goofy movie.
Yeah, I agree. Like for a movie that's kind of so tonally all over the place and weird, they never sort of made a joke about the more serious subjects, which was good. Like, yeah, it was a good way to tackle that. So yeah, I do agree. I think they did a good job handling that with taste.
Agreed. And if you're one of those people that has issues with that, reach out to somebody. Don't let it fester. I know it's a goofy movie we're reviewing, but honestly, you know, seek help.
All right, what do you guys rate it?
Yeah, so yeah, overall I enjoyed this one. I had, you know, minimal issues with it. Like I said, the tonal stuff kind of messed with my head a little bit, but overall, I think it's a fun watch, a really solid, you know, one-time watch for me. Is it something I'll ever visit again? I think with a group of friends, absolutely. Like this is one I would show to my friends, be like, you need to see this. It's really fucked up. Will I sit down again and watch it by myself? Probably not. But that's not, you know, really a knock on it. I just, you know, but yeah, fun time, good gore. Lionel character, I'll never forget him, honestly. He'll stick with me for sure. Like he's just a one of a kind type of character, sort of. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5. I had a fun time. It wouldn't have made my top 10 last year, but definitely probably would have made an honorable mention.
Yeah, all those reasons I agree with, and I'm sticking with the 3.5 out of 5. I looked at my top 10 last year, and number 10 was Black Phone, so I don't think it was better than that movie, but I agree. Definitely an honorable mention. But yeah, Lionel, I think him and Big Ronnie need to hang out and talk shop together.
Yeah, I'm slightly higher at a 4 out of 5, but like I said before, it would not have made in my top 10 either, but it would have been close. It would have been probably top 15. But like I also said, I would have given him my favorite actor of last year. Like I won't take away from Morton Burien and Fedja Van Hewitt, which is Jordan Patrick from Speak No Evil, which were great performances. But I think Neil Ward in this really kind of carries the movie. You know, he has a great actor opposite him, but it's really his movie. And goddamn, he plays so many different things. Like there's so many emotions attached to this guy in the course of 90 minutes. It's ridiculous. You see him go through all of these like ebbs and flows. It's fantastic performance, and it's funny. So I told you guys privately, but I'll tell everyone, if you review this on Letterboxd, Neil Ward reads all the reviews for this movie, so the main actor, and he commented on mine anyway. That's yeah, apparently a good dude, and he was doing contests and stuff for a while, like signed Blu-rays of this movie and sending them to people. It's yeah, definitely would have been my top actor of last year.
Maybe we should reach out, have him on. Maybe not during the strike.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Yeah.
Right. Damn strike. Hopefully it ends soon.
But I'll definitely watch his career because dude's a legit actor.
All right, guys, that is going to be it for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed our review of Feed Me. Next week, highly anticipated episode, our Wes Craven retrospective. It has been a very long time since our last retrospective when we did Stuart Gordon. So we are super excited to get into the filmography of Wes Craven. In the meantime, you can keep up with the podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Just search the Horror Squad podcast. But of course, you know, the absolute best way to keep up with the podcast is our Discord. All you gotta do is send us a DM on any of our socials, and we will get you a link to the Discord completely free to join, and an amazing community over there. We're even doing a fantasy football league this year, which you missed out on if you haven't joined yet, but we do a bunch of awesome random stuff over there. So definitely join in on our Discord. You can also email us anytime, the Horror Squad podcast at gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can pick up some merch over at tpublic.com. Just search the Horror Squad podcast and you'll find our merch over on there. And save the dates, October 20th through the 22nd. We really hope to have something announced very soon for that. But in the meantime, you know, the strike is unfortunately messing some things up, but it seems like it is definitely going to happen. We're just working out some particulars. We apologize. I know we had already announced last year's event by now, but hopefully within the next week, I'm hoping we can at least get some sort of information out there to you guys. So just keep an eye on our socials for that. So that is going to be it, guys. We'll see you guys next week for Wes Craven retrospective. And Steve, we got an interview. What do we got?
So stick around for the interview with Chai and Lourdes from I'm Everywhere. Great conversation coming right up. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, where tonight we have two very special guests. We have the director of the upcoming film I'm Everywhere, Chai, and an executive producer for the film, Lourdes. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. This is super exciting. I've been looking forward to this.
That's awesome. And me as well. I always love to talk to fellow horror fans, fellow filmmakers, fellow podcasters. It's great. I'm really excited about this. So my first question, you're here to promote your upcoming film, I'm Everywhere, which is scheduled to start principal photography in October. Can you tell us a little bit about the film?
Sure. So this film, directed by me, is actually a prequel segment to Lourdes's Alert to Darkness, which she directed. And Lourdes can talk more about the origins of the story, and all of that. But yeah, just this short part, and we're also planning on making it a vampire anthology. But for right now, it's just focusing on our main anti-hero. You could say he's a villain, but his name is Victor the vampire, who's being played by my husband. And yeah, Lourdes, what do you want to add to that?
So basically, the first movie that I directed in the vampire anthology I'm doing, Victor is the antagonist of the film, and the main lead is Lilith, who is a college student who gets turned into a vampire after a night class, very traumatic event. But eventually she does overcome her trauma and have her newfound powers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to say much, but in I'm Everywhere, the lead is ran by Victor now. You can see why Victor the way he is. You can see how he is as an experienced vampire, whereas in Alert Darkness, you get to see what it's like to be born into the vampire.
Right. Excellent. So I'll start with Lourdes first, but I'll ask you both the same question. Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite vampire stories, films, books that inspired you for this movie and I guess your previous movie, Lourdes?
I have a list. I've like watched a bunch of vampire films and TV shows growing up, which was introduced by my sister. I watched Dracula in 1992. That one's my favorite. Queen of the Damned. That one's also my favorite.
Mhm.
I also grew up with the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was just like when I came straight out of the womb and into like my early childhood. Halfway through my childhood and my early teens, I love Twilight and The Vampire Diaries.
I think we're both like so lucky because we have such similar tastes, and you could see that in our inspirations. I'm also a humongous fan of Queen of the Damned. That's kind of how I started like building the foundation for what this new movie was going to be and how it was going to be stylistically. Just those dark fantasy 2000s movies. So you also got Blade. That was a huge inspiration for this. Bram Stoker's Dracula, stylistically, the costume design, it's all super beautiful. And then also recently, I was recommended this, but the Vampire Hunter D series,
Okay.
which Bloodlust is, like, if you haven't seen it, it's super super gorgeous, like one of the like most pretty anime movies that you will ever see. But yeah, I would say those, and Twilight, of course.
Right. Are vampire, like, so when you're making these films, are vampire horror films kind of your favorite subgenre of horror, or are there other subgenres of horror that you also like or like more than vampires?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I think my love for the vampire horror genre was definitely strengthened by the whole journey of working on this project and stuff. But personally, I think I feel like I started out more like in psychological thrillers. And then I'm always someone to vouch for found footage films, which are some of my favorite films of all time. I love how creative people get with them and how real they can feel. The Taking of Deborah Logan is one of my favorite horror
Yeah,
movies
that's a
of all
good one.
time. But yeah, I would definitely say found footage. I like stuff that feels really visceral, but also really, really real. Hereditary would be another one of those for me.
Excellent. What about you, Lourdes?
I've always loved vampire horror. That's where I started with my life. But then I eventually moved on to slasher movies like Scream 1996, for instance, and I loved some good old classic horror films like Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw.
Amazing. So I actually went to film school as well myself, so I'm familiar with how it all works. And I always love asking this question. And I'll go to Lourdes first, but I'll ask Shay as well. Which part of the process do you like the most? So if you can only do one part of the process, whether it's directing, writing, producing, acting, which part of the process speaks to you the most as a filmmaker?
What part speaks to me the most as a filmmaker? Um, what speaks to me the most is doing the makeup effects.
Mm.
Some of like the gory wounds, the bite wounds, and like all the blood. That's what like speaks to me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime someone like brought up a horror movie or needing something for like makeup effects, I'm like, how much blood do you need? I just like kind of like blurt it all out, and they're like,
right.
huh?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What about you, Shay?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, Lourdes is, I mean, we've done a couple shoots recently, just as a side note. Lourdes always comes in clutch with the stunt blood and all of that. We also had her do some makeup special effects in our Indiegogo promo. So if you want to check that out, tiny little plug. But for me, because this is pretty much like officially my first directorial debut, and that's a hard question. I've never been asked that question. But I guess if I were to choose, just because I've done it so many times just on my own, just as a creative, probably just the kind of the research aspect of filmmaking, which for me, the way that I like to start planning the foundation for a film and what it's going to end up being, I love making Spotify playlists and mood boards and finding scene references for the characters and working on the costume. I'm doing the costume and the production design, and heading that pretty much myself. So the whole design aspect, I guess. I'm going to say the design department. Everything creative and everything artistic having to do with that, because I'm also a comic book artist.
Okay.
It just comes super, super naturally, and I just super enjoy it.
That's amazing. Lourdes, so as someone who loves to do like makeup and effects like that, what are some of like makeup jobs or gore gags that you've seen in previous horror films that you thought are like among the best in the industry?
I'm not sure if anyone has watched it yet, but I love Stranger Things season 4.
Yeah.
I like the way they did like some of the makeup effects on there, and they even went as far as to like getting nominated for the Emmys, which I love so much. I'm so proud of them, proud of the makeup artists team, proud of the creators of it, and yeah, just seeing the behind the scenes with like the sculptures and like the latex and how they've done it, I was so like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Vecna looked so sick in season 4. It was great. Shay, I do have a question about your podcast. So you're a fellow podcaster. You do a podcast called Snobcast by Film Snob Reviews. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and kind of what the deal is there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've also worked here and there as a film critic. So yeah. So I've been working with William McGeezaval, who is the founder of filmsnobreviews.com. I've been working with him since 2019. And then I think since 2020, 2021, around the pandemic, when the pandemic happened, we decided to start up our own podcast. And it's just this fun little thing. And if you ever want to feature on it, just let me know, because we're always looking for guests. So every episode we have different guests on, and our guests get to choose a theme having to do with movies. And what everyone does, we all get on a little digital circle. We all pick out 3 movies that follow the theme, and we just discuss them. And we try to watch as many as we can, just consume as much film information, share our film knowledge and all of that, go on reckless movie tangents. And then in the middle of it, usually Will also surprises us with a second theme that no one gets to know about until he springs it on us.
Okay.
But yeah, super fun. I think we're actually filming the next episode tonight, like right after this. So that'll be our 27th episode, and it is on all platforms.
Okay, that's amazing. One thing, again, about your podcast that really drew me to it is you talk a lot about diversity, queer horror, Black creators, feminism not too long ago. That's something that I plug a lot of my podcasts. I think there needs to be more diversity in film and in stories and characters. Are there any like films that you can recommend in some of those categories that maybe don't get the limelight that they should?
Oh my God. Wait, let me bring up my IMDb.
Yeah.
No, like at the top of my head, like as far as queer horror goes, damn, there's so many of them. Okay, so I'd say feminist or queer horror. I think Cam, which was on Netflix, was something that was completely underrated, but it was written and founded by people who have worked in the sex industry. They know what they're talking about. I thought that went really in depth with stuff that's happening like nowadays with, people being replaced by AI and what it means to kind of be what it means to be working in the sex industry. There's also this tiny, tiny little it's more of a psychological thriller, but it feels very visceral and horrifying. This little movie that I reviewed called Makeup. And that's a queer film, not spoiling anything for that because it's very mysterious and also incredibly hard to market. The new Evil Dead Rising movie.
Yeah.
I thought that did really well of incorporating strong female characters. You also have a trans character, but they don't make it, something marketable, if that makes sense. They don't make it a point of like, this is why you should. It's just a natural character, and that's just who they are, kind of thing. And there's just so many movies that have a subtext of queerness, or just have a queer nature or feminist nature to them. There's so many out there, so caught me off guard.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Talk to Me also has a trans that they don't mention it. It's just, and that's how it should be. I think, it's just part of life. It's a person, and it's great performance as well. So that's awesome. And two I would recommend myself if you haven't seen him is Summoning Sylvia and Saint Drogo. Very, very great recent films that I liked. So
Oh my god.
Lourdes, I kind of asked you the same thing. Speaking of indie films, you're both making an indie film. Are there any indie films you'd like to kind of talk about that you think should have more eyes on it, that maybe doesn't get kind of the publicity that it should?
Indie movies. That's interesting. I don't know what comes to mind when it comes to like indie films, but I do have answers that piggyback to Shay's response. I really loved Interview with the Vampire from AMC, the TV
Okay.
series.
Mhm.
I love how like they finally showed like the relationship between the two leads, and like
Right.
you see how like lovey-dovey it is, but then it's not like so lovey-dovey. And then they also like have like their like kid together, like quote unquote daughter too as well, and it shows so much complex relationship, like oh yeah, we're like a family, and then also it's like yeah, we're toxic and dysfunctional, and it tells so many stories and subjects that are still happening, that is still relevant in present times. I also really loved Jennifer's Body. It's like so ahead
Yeah.
of its time. Like you can tell like what it's like to be a woman, and like relationships between women. Some people were like debating if Jennifer and Needy were like in love or they were not in love, and yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And another one I would recommend for more kind of the feminist movement is Bit, which I believe is on Tubi, and that's another kind of indie film that I personally think is great. Now, just we're a horror podcast, so speaking of horror films in general, I'd like to both to know what are some of your favorite horror films of all time. So I'll start with Lourdes.
My favorite horror films of all time. That's a tough one. Are you talking like the vampire horror or like
Oh,
general
anything, just
horror?
general horror.
Okay, so my favorite horror is Scream 1996.
Okay, very, very great choice. A classic for sure. What about you, Shay?
I'm literally looking through my IMDb watch list
Right.
now. Like I have a lot because horror. I mean, obviously, it's my favorite genre. Like I have my little cup here with
Nice.
with the besties, the
That's
homies.
amazing.
But I think, man, there's so many. I love The Exorcist. If we're going to classics, Candyman. But if we're going more recent, Mad God by Phil Tippett
wow.
is, yeah, what like probably one of the most impressive animated films of all time. And it's one of the very few films that I've ever seen that has made me physically ill. Same goes for I believe it's and you've probably seen it, but The Medium, is it Thai?
Oh yeah,
I think it's Thai horror.
Thai, yeah.
And that, I mean, I would also compare that to The Exorcist. One of my favorite, if not like my personal, it's filmed like a National Geographic documentary, and it's amazing. I love pseudo documentaries. Long Pigs is also like a little gem that I'm always talking about, and no one knows what it is I'm talking about, but it's this funny little Canadian found footage pseudo documentary thing, literally about a cannibal just going about his day, and a film crew is just like, content, we're gonna film this guy like he has a cooking show. And it's super real, but also just kind of like tongue-in-cheek, and just super funny. Silent Hill, I'm gonna name last because Silent Hill, both the movie and the video games, have influenced a lot of my work, period. And everything from the score to also how they adapted the games and somehow made it even more female fronted, and the fact that they're actually coming out with a sequel for it, just everything about it I love. Yeah.
That's great. The Medium does not get enough love, I think. People really need to check out The Medium. It is so scary. And this is someone who's done almost 300, horror podcast episodes, and I thought it was like, wow, this is way scarier than a lot of stuff that's come out recently. People need to watch it. So.
Thank you. I've tried sharing it with as many people as possible. I've even rewatched it, and every time it's just like, oh, it's so nasty and so good. I went in cold too. I think Will from Film Snobs, he recommended me reviewing it, or it just popped up in my inbox or something because I get Shutter screeners. And I went into it so cold, and it's the how it starts out. Like when I say National Geographic documentary, I was like, what? This movie is really beautiful, and it's called The Medium. I'm like, is this about like a part of like this town's culture or whatever? I thought it was real at first until stuff.
Yeah.
Amazingly executed, and like everything about it is so real. I love it. But
Absolutely.
yay, glad someone gets
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to I'm Everywhere, it's currently being funded on Indiegogo, and we're going to share the links on our social media and on our Discord, of course. How do you feel about the importance of funding indie films on platforms like Indiegogo today? Because I think it's great for diversity. It's great for bringing young filmmakers, the chance to actually make something unique and cool. So how's your experience been so far with this project? So I'll go with Lourdes first.
Experiencing with the Indiegogo has been interesting. Just been sharing it around everywhere and putting it to the title to embody it literally is like so immersive. I want to like shine light on everybody's talents, bring everybody I know and I work with. Like I want to like show what their like brain is like, and also like I've like written this movie to expose myself to the trauma that I've experienced prior, and just like heal with it, move on from it. I've seen many people have like resonated with it, and yeah, to like heal from it, profit off of it, to provide support to cast and crew with like meals, paying them also, and it's amazing.
Awesome. What about you, Shay?
Yeah, like Lourdes said, and like we keep saying, it's definitely a journey. It's always a journey, but this you come across a lot of really ambitious projects, and you've been to film school, so you've seen people take on projects for the first, second, third, however many times, and a lot of the times it can be a really big, overwhelming, confusing ordeal. But with I'm Everywhere, it's been really super special for me personally, and I know for for Lourdes and for Landon, who's playing Victor, it's been something that's been really special and become this huge. It's like grown and grown and grown, and now it's turned into something that is going to really unfold into something like really cool and really humongous. So this is definitely an outlet to where we can all just put everything that we have into this, but we can also have fun with it because it is a genre film. And that's what we all know is the beautiful thing about horror movies and dark fantasy films is you can take anything like a narcissistic vampire, a literal energy vampire, and add so much to it, like the style and the colors that I'm going for. I'm working with an amazing cinematographer who also happens to be one of my buddies, my close buddies, and it's just like how things have fallen into place with the people who have come onto the project and are giving it their all. Like you'll see like our cast and crew working hard to also put the movie out there. It's the whole thing has been a blessing, but definitely for the Indiegogo, for us putting every single creative bone in our bodies to make this happen, we still need to support ourselves and each other. Me, Lourdes, and the other executive producers, and Landon have put a lot already into stuff like sets, into props, production design. I don't have a shower anymore. It's closet now,
Right.
full of all of our props and stuff. I live in a trailer park, so my showers are outside, thankfully. I have showered, but you know, it's taken a lot. And we know, because when you take on any massive creative project like this, on this on the ambitious with the ambition and the scale that we're aiming for, the best, you know, what we want most out of this project is for our audiences to be entertained and be like, wow, that was crazy, or wow, that reminds me of when I was a kid and I would see movies in the theater and they were kind of dark and kind of edgy and all that. That 2000s vibe, you know. But at the same time, like Lourdes said, we want to make sure that everyone, while putting their best foot forward, is totally supported in the process of making this movie. So all of our budget is pretty much just going to supporting our casting, our crew. We're supporting everything else. It's just making sure that they can get paid, that they can be fed. And yeah, please support us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish studios all felt that way about the talent that work for them. Unfortunately, we're going through, of course, the strikes, and it's great to speak to indie filmmakers such as yourself. So really appreciate you coming on the show. I have one final question for both of you. Is there anywhere that our listeners can follow you on social media or follow the project so they can, you know, kind of go along with the everything until its release when it's done? So I'll start with Lourdes.
So follow us on I'm Everywhere Official on Instagram, and I'm Everywhere Facebook page, the second installment of the vampire film. And then we also have a Facebook group called I'm Everywhere, aka Victor Fan Club.
Awesome. And Chai?
And for me, yes, what Lourdes said, we have those Facebook groups, we have the Indiegogo, and all of the links for those are also in our bios, like link trees and stuff. Where you can find my personal page is on Instagram at limina_1999. That's like limina, like liminal, but without the L, and 1999 as in one of the best years for movies ever, period. And yeah, we're also planning on starting up a TikTok soon, so I guess look forward to that. But we're posting all of our updates on the official Instagram page and on our own pages.
Awesome. So everyone, please go check out the Indiegogo pages and support indie horror by supporting this film, I'm Everywhere. Chai, Lourdes, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.